I'm Scott Cochran. I'm the Dean of the Center for Professional Excellence. We have 7 programs under the center. If you take a look at our website, it gives a great explanation, and we invite anyone anytime to come back, use the space, talk to us, and to kind of, again, advance the conversation of professionalism. What we're going to talk about tonight is a marketing plan and creating a marketing plan. I'll warn you up front, this is not a be-all, end-all. You will not walk away from here being able to absolutely, soup to nuts, create a marketing plan. The reason is because there's a lot of nuances to it. We will offer those nuances and advice on nuances throughout the year, either one-on-one, through small group studies. We have some, in fact, we have some Success Initiative student directors, and they're going to be working with our other students to help them advance their marketing plan. And we hope that this starts just a little conversation about that. 30 to 40 minutes, as I said before. I like them to be quick. Afterwards, I'll stick around. We can provide any resources that we have available to us, and then we'll keep going. I encourage you to interrupt me. I would absolutely love to field questions as we go, or we can wait until the end. So marketing. A little bit of background on me. I spent 20 years in corporate America before I came to Wofford College, and a big part of that was in marketing. My most recent job before Wofford was I ran marketing, computers or technology, in the credit card businesses for UPS Capital globally. We did a lot of marketing on the global scale. We did small communications-driven marketing. We did large promotional marketing, and we did strategic marketing. So what this is kind of a blend and a meld of several different things. First of all, something that's interesting to me is what people try to do with marketing. And they try to be either all things to all people, or they try to go too big. And I really think one thing that's important with marketing is your goal should be to be not to be something for everyone, but to be everything to someone. And I'm not talking having an audience of one, but I'm talking about the audiences that you approach. You want to be everything to. I'll use Wofford College as an example. We have 1,600 students, 1,500 students at Wofford College. We are not the college for everyone. We fit a certain group. But for that group, we want to be everything to them. We want to be the perfect mix of what they expect in a college. We want to brand ourselves in a certain way so that we can attract those people, and we create a relationship where that relationship is very difficult to break. And that, in essence, is what marketing is about. So what we're going to talk about is a couple of things. What marketing is. We're going to talk about what marketing is not, and I like to call it Neanderthal marketing. I'll tell you why. Somebody gave this example to me a long time ago about Neanderthal, knuckle-dragging, cave dwellers type of marketing that is really a wrecking ball for your organization. If you do it wrong, you have a bunch of activities, it looks busy, but you don't accomplish what you're looking to accomplish, which is to drive forward your organization. I'm going to walk through the basic structure of a marketing plan. And when I say the basic structure is there is a number of different categories that go under a marketing plan depending on what you're trying to accomplish, what industry you're in, and what your goals and objectives are. We're going to look at a bunch of them. I'm going to scale it down to a few, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those few to give you some ideas of what you need to cover and what you need to look at when you're evaluating or designing a marketing plan. And then finally, we're going to have some open discussion. And I hope at that point the discussion is centered on some marketing activities, but if we want to take it into the selling, which is a completely different animal, we can go there as well. So if I ask you what marketing is, can somebody give me an idea of what marketing is? Can you help me out with that? Anybody want to venture a guess? What are you doing when you're marketing? Yeah, that's a big piece of it. There's a piece of it advertising. A piece of it has to do with branding. There's a piece of it that has to do with communication. But in essence, what you want to do with marketing, and it's pretty simple. It's the art of finding, developing, and profiting from opportunities. And let's talk about profiting, for example. If you're a nonprofit, if your goal is to market and drive and bring in behaviors or bring in people, that can be your profit, quote unquote. I'm not talking about just money here. But in this instance, it's easy to say profit. If any of you were trained in classic marketing, Philip Kotler, Northwestern University, famous professor, has written a ton of books. He is the guru of marketing. He was the one that coined the traditional P's and C's, price, product, promotion, and place. You've probably heard of those. If you've taken a marketing class, that is absolutely an essential part of it. Then you also have your customer aspects of it, the C's, customer solution, customer cost, convenience, and communications. All the things that we're going to talk about here, all of the things are going to be embedded in the marketing plan, all of these P's and C's. But we're not necessarily going to call them the P's and the C's. And the reason is I think it sometimes can get confusing and they can get lost when you're communicating your own marketing plan to your own team. So the marketing plan is the art of finding, developing, profiting from opportunities. If you're going to be effective, you need to understand a couple of things. And this is something that you can write down. This is something you can collect. This is something you can do research on. First thing is, who's your primary target? Your customers, in common speak. Who are you trying to attract? What are you trying to accomplish with those individuals or those groups of individuals? You also need to understand who else wants them. Who wants those other targets? Who's your competition? What are they selling? What are they marketing? What are they positioning in the same context and the same arena that you are? And then finally, where do your targets shop? Where are they looking for things? And that's the marketplace. And I'm going to use Wofford as an example, and I'm going to use a group for an example. I was having a talk with a student earlier today, and she was trying to figure out, how do I drive some interest in one of the clubs that we have on campus? And I said, well, who are you trying to get in your club? She goes, anybody. Anybody. I said, you want anybody? Yes, anybody. That's when you get towards desperation. I want anybody. So her primary target was anybody, which means everybody. I said, who else wants the students that you want? Everybody. Oh, everybody. Okay, so we have you want everybody. Everybody else wants everybody. We're not getting a lot of help here. And where do you get these people? From all over. So what I was talking to her about is a little bit of focus. If you want everyone, then there's no segmentation, there's no focus. If everybody else wants everyone, it's tough to compete against that because you don't know who you're fighting against. And if you have an undefined marketplace where it's everywhere, you don't know where to go find these people. So marketing is about understanding these three things. It also needs to recognize, marketing plan and an organization needs to recognize strengths and weaknesses. And that's something that will come into the plan as well as we get a little further into it. And when I started talking a little bit further with this student, and we narrowed it down, and we talked, and we realized that actually she didn't want everybody. She wanted customers, students, that were interested in three things. And I'm not going to go, I want to identify the group. She goes, they're interested in these three things. Okay, great. How many students are like that? I don't know, but I assume that those students are in these areas. Who else wants students with those three things? Is it everyone? No, there's actually 2 or 3 groups. So I'm not really competing against everybody, am I? I said, no, you're not. Where do you find those people? Well, we actually don't find them everywhere. They're actually in these couple of departments, and they typically study in these types of places. They're a little more academic or a little more focused on this part of the college life than another part of the college life, so she's starting to narrow her marketplace. And as we started talking through, I said, how do you find those things? So she went from everybody, I'm trying to be everything to everybody, or I'm trying to be something to everybody, and she narrowed it down. And she realized pretty quickly that this funnel, this marketing funnel, was critical. Then we jumped into, what are you doing now? And what they were doing now for this organization was practicing somewhat what I call Neanderthal marketing. Again, somebody told me about that. And Neanderthal marketing is like this. It's equating marketing with selling. Selling and marketing are not the same thing. Selling is an activity. Selling is a tactic within the marketing structure that we'll talk about, but it's not the same thing. It's a piece of it. Some people, some organizations get in that trap of, I'm going to sell, sell, sell. Marketing is about positioning, it's about research, about understanding customers, competition, and the marketplace. Selling is about activity that happens within there. The other thing that you do in a Neanderthal marketing situation is you emphasize customer acquisition. How can I get these customers rather than customer care? There's a metric, depending on what industry you're in, but it can cost up 3 to 10 times to acquire a customer than it can to keep a customer. Keeping a customer is very low cost. Keeping someone in your organization that already has an investment in your organization is a great way to build loyalty. And if you're emphasizing the customer acquisition versus the customer care, you're probably practicing a little Neanderthal marketing. The other thing is trying to make a profit on each individual transaction rather than managing lifetime value. Lifetime value is critical to having a successful organization. I want to bring people in. I want to understand that I might not make a profit on each individual transaction. And let me tell you again about profit. This is not about the money. This could be about the relationship. If that person comes into my organization and can't give me something right away, can't give me that profit, then I might dismiss them. I might not keep them into the lifetime chain where their relationship will grow and profit in the long run. Another trap you have to be careful of. If you price based on marking up cost rather than target pricing, you will put yourself in a bind. If your cost is $5 and you assume that you're going to charge $7 because you want to make $2 or a percentage on it, that's cost plus pricing. That's a dangerous thing to get into. Market-based pricing should drive your pricing. What's it worth? Worth what cost? What is the worth of your product? What is the worth of your organization? And in that situation, you might have something, I'll use bicycle tires as an example. Bicycle tires use more or less rubber than a conventional car tire. It's not a trick question. Less. The tires on my bicycle individually cost more than the tires on my car. And that's not an unusual situation. And what they're doing is they're pricing a certain market, they're pricing a certain demand, and they're pricing an image, and it's part of their marketing. But the Continental tires on my bicycle will cost more a lot of times than the Continental tires on my car. They're not based on price cost plus, they're based on market demand, they're based on target pricing for a particular niche market. And that's really important to understand. Another Neanderthal practice: planning each communication tool separately rather than integrating marketing communications tool. You will see the results of this a lot. When you get disjointed messaging from different pieces of an organization, you realize that they're not coordinating. That's a big danger signal. Your marketing messaging, your center message, which I mean your core message of what you do, has to be consistent. Has to be consistent across the board, and has to be coordinated with other parts of your organization. You'll see this in branding mistakes. What happens is, let's take an organization on campus for example. If I've got an organization on campus that has done everything black and gold, that has done everything in an athletic apparel look, that has done everything to drive student behavior and student activity from an athletic standpoint, and then all of a sudden I switch to a service mode. And what I mean by service mode, I'm going to change my colors. I'm going to have t-shirts that are, instead of black and gold, I'm going to have t-shirts that are pink, green, orange. And I'm going to have a different messaging with different imaging. You're crossing up communications and you're not sticking with your core messaging. If you plan those communication tools, those t-shirts in one instance separately, you're not going to have a synthesized message that's very dangerous in the long run. You're going to confuse your customers and your audience. And the last thing in Neanderthal marketing is selling the product, a transactional sale, versus understanding the customer's real needs, what I call consultative selling. And if you've ever been the image of the used car salesman that comes in and wants to put you in a particular car because they want to sell that car, is a transactional sale. I want to sell a product. I don't necessarily want to understand the needs. And in really good marketing, organizations understand the needs of the customer, the value proposition that they have, and that's what they promote and what they sell versus selling the product. I always tell people, when I was in marketing, even when I was in sales, I was never marketing or selling a particular product. I was selling a belief and a concept. I was selling the why we do things, not the what we do. And if I can convince you to believe what I believe, and if I can convince you of the why, you will be a partner and you will be a customer for life. Apple Computer has done that extremely well. Apple Computer says, we believe technology should be delivered in a completely different way. We believe in breaking the norm. We happen to make computers. And people buy into that concept, and they're willing to pay $1,000 for a computer a laptop that you can buy for $800, $500, $300 in a competitor's variety. But other competitors have focused on the what, we make fast computers, versus the why, as Apple has. That is a big distinction. Selling to the customer's need, getting into the why and the belief. Okay, so we've got Neanderthal marketing. We've talked about what marketing is. Let's take a direct look at what a marketing plan is. Now, on purpose, I put a lot of stuff on this slide, and I left off a couple. Don't try to write it all down. We're going to move into something else real quickly. But I want you to see something. There's a lot of stuff in marketing, a whole lot of stuff. Starts with an overview. Tell me a little about your organization and what you're trying to accomplish. What's your vision and your mission? What are your marketing objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? And we can walk down this list all the way down to your communication strategy, your distribution channels, competitive analysis, your tactical plan, budget, marketing resources, and then the measurement. And if you have a specialty business or if you have a specialty organization, you might have 3 or 4 different things added in there or taken away. What I want to do is focus on a couple that are really important, in my opinion, for you to grasp immediately. I want to focus on the marketing objectives, segmentation, communication, a tactical plan, a budget, and then measurement. And so when we look at these, we see really a different story. We see a compact marketing plan that I consider essential topics in order to make sure that your organization is going in one direction and in the direction that you intend it to go. So a lot of times, especially without the marketing objectives, we tend to lose sight of where we're going. On marketing objectives, you've got to ask yourself, what are you going to accomplish? What are you trying to do? And that's not a straightforward answer. Some people will say, well, I'm trying to sell a lot of things. All right, how many things do you want to sell? Do you want it to be in things or in percentages? Do you want to drive an image? Some marketing is not to drive a sale exactly in line with the effort. It's to drive an image, to drive a following. You have to understand when you set your marketing objectives, you have to understand that they need to be SMART objectives. Anybody heard of SMART objectives? You know what SMART is? And we'll talk about these a little bit in measurement. SMART objectives are specific. What exactly is it? How many? How much? Measurable. You've got to be able to measure these objectives. It's not a feeling unless you want to be able to measure a feeling. Attainable. Do not set your sights on things that aren't attainable. I'm not talking about stretch goals, and you should have stretch goals. But if your goals are not attainable, then you're really blowing up your marketing strategy before you even get started. They need to be relevant to your organization. And sometimes we can pick marketing activities that are not relevant, and they need to be timely. You need to have a time-specific objective on your marketing objective. When's it going to be done? How will you know it's done? If you don't have objectives that meet those SMART criteria, you need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what you're trying to accomplish. First thing, any organization, what are your objectives? Are they SMART? Are they specific, measurable, attainable, and so on? The second thing that's really important is the segmentations. You need to break down your segments. If we had Wofford College as a group, what's a segment of Wofford College? What's one segment? What's that?
Humanities.
Yeah, you might have a humanities or any major. What's another segment of Wofford's entire population?
Athletics.
Athletics, yep. There's an athletic group. What else? Males, females. Fraternity, sorority. Professors. What else? These are all really good. They're really important, but there's even more. By class, by age, by interest. We just had an interest fair out there. That is a market segmentation exercise. That if organizations were really, really smart, they would be walking around and not only looking at what they're doing, they would look at which tables are attracting more people and who are those people. Are they all one particular segment? Are there professors driving to one place? Are there all humanities majors driving to one place? What about the math group? Do they end up focusing on one particular segment or another? Segmentation is really, really critical because you can't market to everyone. You can, but you won't be effective. Segmentation strategies. Break down your markets into segment. It doesn't matter what organization you are, what company, what business, you can segment your customers. Then your communication strategy, which I think is probably one of the more important things around. This is your advertising, your PR, your direct marketing. What are you going to tell people to attract them? And I mean, think about that. Come join us. Why? I don't know. But what are you going to tell them? What are you going to offer? What are you going to say that has them begging, desiring to be hanging out with you? Apple says a certain thing. They tell a certain message to get people to want to buy their computers. Oh, and by the way, when you do it right, your product doesn't matter. What else does Apple sell? Telephones. Let's not call it an iPhone. It's become an iPhone, right? Cell phone. It sells telephones. What other computer company sells telephones? None. MP3 players. Okay, they call it the iPad. They own that too. What other company sells iPads? What other computer company sells MP3 players? Dell did it for a while. Did it real poorly. They didn't do a good job at it. But how you communicate, what you tell people to attract them, is going to determine how much you can expand, how much you can grow in your product line, and how what you tell them is really important. What are some ways you can tell people, quote unquote, things in a marketing campaign? What are some channels that you can tell them? What's that? The internet, yep. What else? Direct marketing. Videos. Chalk on the sidewalk. That's a way you can tell them, which a lot of people do here at Wofford College. What else? What are some other things? Skywriting. Yeah, think creatively. And that's a great one, actually. What else? Is that it? Old-fashioned paper flyers, email, posters, Twitter account, tweets, newspaper ads, social media. Now, if you start doing this and you say, we're going to do it all, we're going to be all things to all people, and you don't plan these, and you don't decide what I'm going to tell them to attract and how I'm going to tell, I've got a plethora of mechanisms out there. I'm not going to be effective if I don't focus on the ones that meet my audience. If you're marketing to a group, if your segment includes 18 to 22-year-olds, are you going to market the same way as if it had people like me, near 50? You going to market the same way? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's why it's critical to understand your segment, which bleeds into the communication strategy. How are you going to tell them? This is a problem in 90% of the organizations, in my opinion. And I'm talking organizations on campus, Wofford College organizations, and it's a problem with a lot of businesses. There's some great communications tools out there. There's some great companies that do this. And I would say if you're going to ask for help anywhere, don't skimp on your communication strategy. This is where you're going to make or break your marketing. Because even if you have the greatest marketing plan in the world and nobody knows about it or you don't tell them, it doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. Tactical plan. What activities are you going to conduct to close the deal? This kind of crosses into the selling, but not necessarily. This is still marketing tactics. I'll tell you a marketing tactic that happened at Wofford last year. It was actually really good. It was annoying. We walked on campus, and there were, how many from Wake Forest, those cardboard cutouts? Maybe 100, 150. Cardboard cutouts about 6'5", and it had all this information about Wake Forest. And it had scan codes so you could scan, QR codes so you could scan the codes. And one of their tactics was putting these around campus. This was a marketing tactic to build awareness that they were coming on campus. And brilliant to some extent, foolish in another. One of the things they didn't do is they did not ask permission. So they walked on campus. These things proliferated campus. We got phone calls. What are you guys doing? Who allowed them in here? We had no idea. We collected them. We put them in. Mission accomplished for Wake Forest. Mission accomplished. Everybody was talking about them. Everybody knew about it. It was actually pretty good, except they didn't ask us. And that was a problem for future things, but tactical plan. What are you going to do to close the deal? What activities are you going to do? Are you going to hand out things? Are you going to sell things? Are you going to put on a show? Are you going to do your T-shirts? What are the things you're going to do in order to close the deal? When you start talking about these two pieces, this is your thinking of what you're going to do. These are how you're going to do it. And this is how you're going to pay for it and make sure that you're spending your money wisely. How effectively you use your funds. Don't mistake costs and budget. Two separate things. Something costs a certain amount of money, but your budget is how you intend to spend over a certain period of time, and it needs to be tied into the last bullet, which is measurement. How are you going to judge your success? Whether it's return on investment, which I would highly recommend. I would not do anything without an ROI. And people tell me all the time, oh, it doesn't matter because this is kind of the soft part of it. I just want to get the word out. Well, I can tell you what, I can put an ROI on the word out. I'll tell you exactly what your return is. Most people say that because they don't want to measure, because they know that the activity is probably not bringing a good enough ROI, return on investment, but they want to do it anyway because they feel, they believe, they think it sounds good. Well, I can tell you one of the things about marketing too. It is very hard-based, hard numbers. It's hard numbers based. It is not about feeling. It is about measurable activities. So a budget is going to tell you by month, and any student that comes through and does if you're doing your budgeting for your projects, your entrepreneurial programs, your consulting projects, you have to have a monthly budget categorized by item realistic in where you're going to spend that. Your budget may be cut back because things cost too much. It may be your budget may be expanded because you have another fundraising activity that brings money in or more revenue than you expected, but you need to have a budget. And you need to have a logical approach to what percentage of your budget is going to go, what percentage of your revenue is going to go to your budget. More revenue you bring in, more you can afford to spend on it, and the more effective it's going to make your overall marketing plan. So again, there's a number of categories that fall into a marketing plan. These, in my opinion, are 6 of the more important ones. I'm not going to say the most important ones. There could be some others based on your organization that need to be in here, but you have to get these right. And the way you start a marketing plan, the way you do a marketing plan, is you sit down with the group and your team and never do a marketing plan in isolation. If you have a dozen people on your team, everybody needs to be in on the game. Everybody needs to bring something to the table, because what you're going to accomplish, it's not necessarily that they're going to tell you what you're going to accomplish, but you need everybody to understand what you're trying to do. I need everyone on my team knowing what our goals and objectives are. I need everyone understanding that from the very beginning. Market segmentation, knowledge. Communication strategy, knowledge. Tactical plan, knowledge. You need to bring your team in. If you start doing marketing in isolation, you'll go back to the Neanderthal, which is not including everyone, and your marketing process will break down. The first thing I would do, if you're starting a marketing thing for tomorrow, is understand what are your objectives, bar none. If you do not start with your objectives and what you're trying to accomplish, and you don't have SMART measures, then you will not be able to deliver any portion of your marketing plan.